Fintelligence, brought to you by Yes Securities.
Hello and welcome everybody to another informative episode on Fintelligence by Yes Securities. I'm your host Rohan Karyappa, and today we're going to dive deep into the world of finance so that you can accelerate swiftly towards your financial independence. मेरे साथ है हमारे financial expert Ayush from Yes Securities. स्वागत है आपका आयुष.
Thank you, Rohan. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here and have the opportunity to share some insights with our listeners.
I am excited about that as well. तो शुरू करते हैं आज के एपिसोड with a very common question जो हमारी बहुत सारी ऑडियंस के दिमाग में रहता ही होगा. How can someone start investing if they don't have that much money?
Well, that's an age-old problem I think everyone faces. Life stages make it restrictive for you to do things that you want to do. But you have to start small. Like anything, you take it one step at a time. It's like having a small piece of land and having one seed to plant. What you need to do is look out for the most safest and most secure method of investing. Say perhaps you choose mutual funds as your entry point and make a first minimal investment in that. And then gradually, as you feel that your means are improving, you can add to that. So start small, start safe, and be comfortable with what investment decision you take at the start. Your confidence will be benefited from that.
Start small, start safe is the mantra to go by. Ayush, आप मेरे को बताइए, according to you, what are some of the best investment options for someone who's just starting out?
So I think when you're starting off, you need to know a few, principles of investing. One always says, hold for the long term. You need to know that the time value of money, how it appreciates, what is compounding interest. Now, these two factors are very well played out in a product called mutual funds. Most of us are well aware, we've been exposed to advertising and a lot of advocacy on investing in mutual funds. Ki investments sahi hai. There's a reason for that advocacy is that mutual funds really are the best utilizers of time value. You invest over a long period of time, you hold, you trust somebody with their advice and their decisions, and you reap benefits over the long term. So mutual funds, I think, are a great way to start off your investment journey. And when you learn from the mutual fund journey, you also gain confidence to invest in other products. And direct equity would be the next best option. But do your research and your due diligence before you enter that.
म्यूचुअल फंड सही है तो हम सब लोगों ने सुन लिया है, बट एक और प्रॉब्लम भी है कि मेरे फ्रेंड्स मेरे कान में आके बोलते हैं कि यार एंजॉयिंग लाइफ भी बहुत ज्यादा सही है. तो हाउ कैन वन मेंटेन अ परफेक्ट बैलेंस बिटवीन सेविंग फॉर द फ्यूचर एंड एंजॉयिंग लाइफ इन द प्रेजेंट?
Definitely. I think that's every Gen Z and millennial would want to enjoy their life to the fullest. Everybody wants to enjoy the good things in life, the food, the travel, the materialistic items. I think what you need to do is just have discipline. Also, stay very averse to things that could completely derail your investment plans. So things like trends such as day trading. Be cautious. Be fully informed before you do something like that because more people lose money than make money. What you should do is budgeting. You should know what are your key expenses, what are your sources of income. Align those, make a simple sheet of paper, put down what comes in, what goes out, and then separate them somewhere as to what is a long-term and a short-term goal. Your long-term goal could be maybe, having a home of your own. It could be planning for your child's, marriage and education. But it could also be simpler things in the short term, such as I want to travel to Europe or I want to buy a SUV. Keep those goals aside and allocate an amount to them. Then keep aside those expenses that are routine in nature. And then develop a habit of putting more and more into the investment pool or your goals and controlling your expenses. That way, you will develop a net worth for yourself. That net worth will make you feel happier and happier as you go older because you'll suddenly start achieving what goals you set out.
Ayush, very interestingly, you mentioned a few terms like day trading and उससे कैसे बच के रहना चाहिए, long term, short term goal, budgeting, etc. All of this falls under the big umbrella of financial education. उसके बारे में आपका क्या ख्याल है? What is the role of financial education in achieving long-term financial freedom?
I think it is critical. The earlier you start, the better. You don't need to act on everything you learn, but it's best to know what is happening. Sometimes you will hear conversations in office, in your college that, I traded in futures and options, or मैंने इतना पैसा बनाया 2 दिन के अंदर. It all sounds really neat, but you need to understand the education that is required to do something like that. The technical knowledge, the aptitude, and the risk-taking ability. All these are a product of financial education. Once you educate yourself on what are the key elements of investing, trading, what is fundamental analysis, what is technical analysis, you will understand why people take the decisions they take in the fields of investment that they are. Why does a mutual fund manager do something as opposed to a day trader? The education will help you choose your safe path for what is comfortable for your investments. So it's important that education at every stage, not just for an amateur, even at say the 35, 40 age group, when you're trying to evolve in your investment journey, what are the other investment options? What are the asset classes I can invest in? What are those that will help me in my retirement? That is all part of education. And it's a constant learning process as anything else, where you keep learning on what are the assets, what are the investment products out there, how do they best fit my life stage and my future needs. So it's absolutely critical, I feel.
Financial education is very, very critical. So Ayush, let's talk about some cool stuff now. How can we use technology and apps to manage our finances on a pro level? ऐसे कुछ तरीके बताइए जिससे हम apps का यूज करके ये चीजें आसान बना पाए.
Absolutely. I think there are a lot of publicly available apps for money management. That's a good start. Much like how someone on a diet tracks their calories, I think these budget apps help you track your expenses. So you make a simple log, like I mentioned earlier. Instead of a sheet of paper, you use your mobile phone, track your incomes, track your expenses. See, the visual representation will allow you to see where you're spending less, where you're spending more, where you're meeting your budgets, where you're exceeding it. And then you can plan your next month and the month after that better. You will also be able to save basis this. Every time you make savings, it'll count against that saving calculator. It's like having money in your piggy bank. So that's one way. Money management apps is one way. The other way is to also look at investment applications that are available in the market. These could vary from simple mutual fund apps to broking apps to multi-product apps. Evaluate those to what best suits your requirements, right? These are independent assessments that people need to make to understand what is best suited for them and their risk averseness. But technology has gone a long way in also helping us self-evaluate. There are a lot of independent analytics platforms where people can go and read about companies and funds and learn more about how they manage their money, how their returns been, what kind of trajectory I may expect if the same return profile continues for more years. So there are a lot of things one can do to better inform themselves before they take a decision, and technology is increasingly helping with the same.
I agree. I feel technology is indeed helping us build a solid financial foundation. So Ayush, how should someone start building credit responsibly? Any suggestions on where to begin?
I think, Rohan, this also goes back to the question about money management and budgeting. If you have a budgeting in place, your credit requirements should anyway have been minimal. And your credit requirements should be restricted to those larger goals and expenses to achieve them faster if your income allows you to make up for the gaps. So let's say that you want to buy a house. You need to plan and save enough money that in the future, if the eventuality comes, you've gotten married, you have a child, you need to expand your house, you buy a house but have enough in your bank to pay the EMIs without stressing about them. Coming to expenses such as credit cards, it's very important that you budget yourself in a way that you don't out expense yourself. You don't want to be stressing in the next month as to how you're going to pay your bill or, waiting for that salary to come in. Planning goes a long way in managing month-to-month expenses and reducing those stresses, as well as creating this discipline that when you need to make a major expense, it could be a medical or an emergency, you make those right decisions on a month-on-month basis so that you have enough in the bank when you really need it.
Absolutely, Ayush. And वो right decisions जानने से पहले मुझे लगता है wrong decisions हमें क्या नहीं लेने चाहिए उसके बारे में भी बात कर लेनी चाहिए, especially for all our Gen Zs. So what are some common financial pitfalls to avoid in early adulthood?
Sure. I think this is very important to keep in mind for all the younger listeners here. Like we spoke about maintaining a balance between wanting and investing for the future. It's very important that we keep in mind the current trend of, material wants. A lot of social media, a lot of exposure that the younger generation have today kind of makes them aspirational to have more materialistic things, travel further than we traveled in our generation. And I think this overspending culture can derail, if not kind of disturb your plans for the future. I think sometimes it makes a lot more sense to practically look at your spending ability and only spend on what makes you happy and what keeps you happy. A lot of times people want to buy, an expensive or a luxury car, but it just stresses them out to pay for it thereafter. And is that what you really wanted from the car? So always evaluate your expense as to how it best meets not just your financial, but also your emotional needs. I think sometimes we kind of, we're seeing the generation kind of skew in one direction or the other. Apart from that, some planning for the future. While you may want and may have the ability to buy things today, always keep things aside for tomorrow because your aspirations are only going to increase further. You're going to want more. And you'll be a lot happier if you've got money in the bank, a good investment plan, and good advisors along with you to take those decisions and make those expenses and win at your financial goals. So my advice would be definitely less overspending, more conscious spending, and saving for the future.
Ayush, you mentioned about less overspending and more conscious spending. Can you expand a little bit more on that?
Sure. So like I gave the example of the luxury car, you have to be conscious about what your scope of spending is. Maybe at the age of 30, you have the means to buy the car, but you also have other responsibilities and expenses that you need to maintain. Maybe that's not the right time to consciously spend on a expensive car as opposed to maybe getting a car that does the job. I know sometimes aspiration does not meet financial ability, but this will help you in the future. So be conscious about how much money you have and how much you can spend without stressing yourself out. Like I mentioned earlier, your emotional needs also need to be met along with your financial needs. And you'll only be financially happy but not emotionally happy. So that balance is very important, and conscious spending goes a long way. Spend what you can spend without stressing about it.
Yeah, so next time when you're going to buy a new sneakers for yourself, remember this advice. Thank you, Ayush, for sharing your valuable insight and knowledge with us today. It has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you, Rohan. It's been a pleasure for me as well. I hope people get 2 bits of information out of what I've just shared.
So that wraps up today's Fintelligence episode. We hope you found these insights valuable and empowering on your path towards financial freedom. Until next time, it's me, Rohan Karepa, signing off. Take care of yourself and stay financially savvy.
Investment in securities markets are subject to market risks. Read all related documents carefully before investing.